You're listening to Pombo and Peter's Picks, the home of your favorite sports betting podcast. Presented by The Daily Goat.
Welcome to another episode of Pombo and Peter's Picks. I'm Jason Pombo alongside Peter Rouse. Peter, how we doing today, my friend?
How we doing? Week 2 in the books. Week 3, yep. I don't like the games this week, other than the Chiefs Chargers, and maybe like the Vikings Seahawks. But the slate of games sucks.
So, are you talking about in terms of picking games, or are you talking in terms of
overall product? Because I think it's going to be a lot of blowouts, especially in the first. Yeah, first slate.
Fair enough, Peter. So let's talk about how we did last week in week 2 picking games. I'll start. I did not perform up to my expectation here. I went 1-4. My lone win was the Panthers plus 3.5 over the Saints. I've been pounding the drum all year about the Panthers, how they could be a surprise team in the NFL, and I picked them to make a wild card in the NFC, and they rolled over the Saints. Jameis Winston came back down to earth, and the Panthers covered, and they won convincingly. My losses, on the other hand, I had the Chiefs minus 3.5. We're going to talk about that game later on, but the Chiefs ended up blowing a fourth quarter lead to the Ravens, which was an L for me. I had the Rams minus 3.5 over the Colts. The Colts covered by a mere half a point. L. I had the Bengals plus 2.5 over the Bears. The Bears ended up winning that game. The Bengals came back at the end, but again, I was a half a point short on that one. L. And then I had the Eagles plus 3.5 over the 49ers. The 49ers ended up winning that game. The game was close, but the 49ers ended up running in the end, and I think they won 17-3.
You should have won 17-11. You should have won
17-11, I'm sorry.
Because they didn't score any points versus Hurts got a 91-yard completion, and they couldn't score any points.
I felt good about that game. I really did. I thought Jalen Hurts was going to build off his momentum from the first game. Did not come to fruition. So 1-4 for me. Not good. Not good at all. Peter, how'd you do?
We're level in the playing field. We're 2-3 again. We won the Bills minus 3.5. I didn't say that Tua was going to get hurt, but they blew him out. And then I got the Bears minus 2.5. Go Justin Fields. He's going to start this week. And then loss, as you said, Chiefs minus 3.5. And then Rams minus 3.5. And then Steelers minus 5. They didn't show up versus Vegas at all. I think they're going to be really, really bad.
You think the Steelers are going to be really, really bad?
Yeah, I think they're in trouble. Big Ben looks terrible. Big Ben looks like Peyton Manning did a bunch of years ago.
We'll get into that game shortly. But, Peter, let's start off with the Ravens-Chiefs. That seemed to be the marquee game from week 2. Sunday Night Football. Going into the game, Lamar Jackson was 0-3 in his career against the Chiefs. That has proved to be his kryptonite throughout his entire NFL career. So this was a big game for the Ravens, who lost week 1 against the Vegas Raiders in an upset. So it was a big game for the Ravens. They were at home. The Ravens have dealt with numerous key players on injured reserve, including cornerback Marcus Peters, their top 3 running backs. They've dealt with injuries, Rashad Bateman, their receiver. So they've dealt with a lot of injuries. Early on in this game, Lamar Jackson had a turnover, ended up being a pick 6 by the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. And it looked like the Chiefs were going to roll over the Ravens. But the Ravens stayed there quietly, keeping up with Patrick Mahomes, and then ended up getting to a 1-possession game. The Ravens score a go-ahead touchdown. And the Chiefs had a chance to win it with the game-winning field goal, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumbled the ball in Ravens territory. The Ravens recovered, and then the Ravens converted on a crucial 4th and inches in their own territory. John Harbaugh took balls to go for that, and they converted, and the Ravens ended up winning over the Kansas City Chiefs 36-35. So Lamar Jackson finished the day 18 of 26, 239 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. But for me anyway, the main takeaway was he rushed for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Marquise Hollywood Brown, he had a game. 6 catches for 113 yards and a touchdown on 10 targets. So it was a great game for him and Lamar Jackson as a whole. Peter, what's your takeaways from this game?
My main takeaway is the Chiefs' defense is putrid. 36 points to the Ravens, and then 29 points versus the Browns. I don't think they can stop a nosebleed. I think Mahomes is going to have to do it all himself. His interception in the second half wasn't good at all. And then the Ravens on the other side, great to see they can beat their kryptonite. I don't like how they celebrated after their win, though. It seemed like they're after won the Super Bowl after that win, but It is what it
I
is.
mean,
It was
yeah.
a great win by the Ravens. And I don't like how John Harbaugh either that like asked Lamar Jackson, let's go for it if you want to go for it. Just to like pivot blame to Lamar Jackson if he doesn't convert it, because he was like, do you want to go for it? But no, it's a good win versus the Ravens.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the Ravens, that game, I don't want to call it their quote unquote Super Bowl, but everybody knew that the Ravens couldn't get over the hump of the Kansas City Chiefs. And they finally got that win. So I think they were really exuberated by it. I think they were absolutely ecstatic, which was clearly showed in the post-game press conference and clearly showed immediately after the game. Another takeaway I had was the Ravens had an ability to stop Tyreek Hill. So Tyreek Hill was targeted 4 times. He was held to 3 receptions for 14 yards. I think that was pretty notable for the Ravens defense. Now, granted, Travis Kelce had a game of himself. He had 7 catches for 109 yards and a touchdown on 8 targets. But maybe the solution to stopping the Kansas City Chiefs is you stop Tyreek Hill and then you let everybody else play perfect. And that ended up occurring. Granted, they scored 35 points, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a crucial mistake, and the rest is history.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, 9 times out of 10, though, you're not going to stop Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, that's fair, but they were able to do that. And I think that was a huge reason why the Ravens were able to win this game. Tyreek Hill was a non-factor in this game, and we can't say that very often. For example, in week 1, Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, they combined for over, 230 yards receiving?
Yeah, it was insane. It was their whole offense.
Now, Travis Kelce had an incredible touchdown reception where he broke 8 tackles, but the Ravens, give them credit. They were able to limit Tyreek Hill, and I think that was huge.
I know easier said than done, though. How do you not stop Lamar Jackson from that QE read every single time?
So I think with Lamar Jackson, he's just so elusive. I think the Chiefs knew it was coming.
No, I know. There's a spy back there, and he still can't do it. The linebacker always fall, regardless if it's the Chiefs or not. Like, nobody can stop him. Nobody can.
And the Chiefs' defense isn't anything to write home about, like we just talked about. I think this Chiefs defense is not as good as people think it is, because I think coming into the year, there was some optimism about this defense. But that hasn't come to fruition yet, and I think they got exposed heavily in this game against the Ravens. Now, can it get better in the middle part and the end of the year? Absolutely. But through the first 2 weeks of the year, I think it's a big question mark for them. The offensive line is much improved. That's obvious. But overall, I think the defense has a long way to go. Now, I think they're short in the interior front 7. I think they could probably use an addition on the back end as well. That wouldn't surprise me. But when you look at this team, I still think the Chiefs are the favorite to come out of the AFC, even after this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's move on, Peter. Let's talk about Thursday Night Football from last week, right? The Washington football team against the New York Giants. A lot of people came to this game, low expectations, like, well, we get to see 2 bottom teams per se duke it out on Thursday Night Football, and it would probably be a crappy game. This wasn't the case at all. This was probably the best game of Daniel Jones's career. Crazy to say it, but he was 22 of 32 for 249 yards and a touchdown. He had 102.2 quarterback rating, and he didn't commit any turnovers. It was only the 6th time in his NFL career which he did not commit a turnover. Saquon Barkley was mostly held in check, but Jones had a great game. And the other side, Taylor Heineke, he had another great game. He was 34 of 46 for 336 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Terry McLaurin, he put on an absolute show. He had 11 receptions for 107 yards and a touchdown on 14 targets. So the Washington football team ended up hanging on to win 30-29. Taylor Heineke led them to a game-winning field goal drive. So originally, Washington went up to kick the ball with their kicker and Dustin Hopkins line up for a 49-yard field goal, and he originally missed it. The kick was no good, but Giants defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence went offsides. Flags through the refs to the flag, 5-yard penalty. Dustin Hopkins kicked the game winner. Second time's a charm. It went in, causing the Washington football team to go 1-1 and the New York Giants to go 0-2. Another key part of this game was when a pivotal drop occurred. Now, Darius Slayton had a wide open touchdown reception, and he just dropped it. Just fell right through his hands. And that came back to bite this Giants team. Washington ends up winning 30-29. So, Peter, what was your takeaway?
the more I look at the Washington defense, I think they're way overrated. I think they're getting way too exposed. The front seven can't hit anybody. They couldn't even hit Daniel Jones like at all. And their secondary, I don't think is good at all. Ron Rivera, if you're coaching, I don't think that they're a playoff team. Even with Ryan Fitzpatrick with that defense, they're supposed to be like a bend don't break. They're supposed to win games on defense. I don't think they can do that. But I mean, regardless, if you thought that the Giants got screwed over, because I don't think that was offsides versus the Washington football team, I'm concerned about Barkley. I don't think his knee's ever going to be right.
So Barkley, he had a 44-yard burst in the first half, but other than that, he was held in check.
I think if 2 years ago, I think he would have scored that touchdown.
You think so?
Yeah.
But that's just not where Barkley is at. I mean, he's dealt with a lot of injuries. Well, I shouldn't say a lot of injuries. He's dealing with this major knee reconstruction, and it takes a while to recover. I don't think Barkley will be right till probably the midway part of the year. And this Giants offense has suffered because of it. But another one of my takeaways that I had from this game was just how good Taylor Heinicke played and how overrated that Washington football team defense was. I know you just talked about it, but through 2 games, they've allowed 25 points per game, 407.5 yards per game. And on third downs, the opposition is 18 of 26, which is good for a 69.2% conversion, which is very high. Now, to the flip side here on Taylor Heinicke on the offensive side, I think Heinicke deserves an opportunity to be the guy in Washington. Now, is he the answer long-term? Nobody knows. But from the short sample size that we have gotten through his 2 games where he started, he's looked good. He's looked like an NFL starting quarterback. Now, it sucks for Ryan Fitzpatrick. He finally gets the opportunity to be a starting quarterback. But look, when he's healthy, he should be behind Taylor Heinicke. Heinicke deserves an opportunity to string some games together to see what he can do, because I think he deserves that opportunity. Again, granted, he's only had 2 starts, but he has shown enough to be a serviceable starting quarterback. And if he ends up not being the guy, Washington can just go about drafting one in 2022 like they were probably going to go anyway. Because even if Fitzpatrick was the starter, they were going to draft a guy anyway. He's not the long-term answer. Fitzpatrick is a stopgap.
Isn't it funny that that this situation would be perfect for Ryan Fitzpatrick? Their starting quarterback goes down, and then Fitzpatrick just fills in for a few weeks.
Yep, and it just wasn't meant to be. It's simple as that. He just was not meant to run this team. Heineke's played well. His connection with Terry McLaurin is absolutely insane. He's got a good chemistry going with Logan Thomas as well. I think the run game under Heinicke plays well. I like Heinicke a lot. I don't know how good he can McLaurin, be. Though. Why?
Imagine him with like a real quarterback. Anybody.
I think McLaurin is going to end up being a premier receiver in this league. Again, it's crazy to think how young he is, but he is one of the best route runners in the NFL. He's got one of the biggest radius in terms of ability to bring in the football, tight windows. He can catch everything. He is awesome. Terry McLaurin.
The amount of crap he's had to deal with. Alex
he
Smith,
is one of the
Taylor
most
Heinicke.
underrated. Dwayne Haskins. He's one of the most underrated receiver in the NFL. I like him a lot. But Peter, let's transition. Next game here. Let's talk some Rams Colts. So going into this game, it felt like a lot of people in Vegas, especially, were leaning towards the Colts. They expected the Colts to bounce back after their week 1 loss. But the Rams ended up winning 27-24. They do cover, but they win by a field goal. Matthew Stafford, 19 of 30, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. He played well. Cooper Kupp had another fantastic game. 9 catches, 163 yards receiving, and 2 touchdowns on 11 targets. Carson Wentz, he gets hurt again. He was 20 of 31, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He was sacked 3 times, and he was diagnosed with not 1, Peter, but 2 sprained ankles. And he was relieved by Jacob Eason. Eason was 2 of 5, 25 yards, and a bad interception. Jonathan Taylor, he was held in check, 15 carries for 51 yards. Michael Pittman started to emerge a little bit. 8 catches, 123 yards. Rams win 27-24. Peter, Carson Wentz gets hurt again. He got hurt in training camp with that foot injury, and now he has 2 sprained ankles, 1 high-end sprained ankle. So he has a regular sprained ankle, and then he has a high-end ankle sprain. Do you think the Colts season is down the drain? I know they have a very difficult game against the Titans this week. They're looking at 0-3.
They have a must-win versus the Titans this week. Must win.
If they go 0-3, for the sake of argument, is their season over?
Yeah, because then they face the Dolphins, and then they face the Ravens, and then they face the Niners. It doesn't get easier. And then they
Don't worry.
face the Titans again.
Don't worry, Tua will take care of them.
Nah, it won't be Tua. But I mean, no, but I think the Colts are really in trouble. I'm done with Wentz's stuff, but he gets hurt all the time. I don't think he's the answer. And it's the Colts MO, I guess. They don't ever have a quarterback, and they have everybody around them. But I don't know. I just think the Colts season is over. And I think the Titans just sleepwalk to whatever position they do. Well, because obviously they're going to win the AFC South and then decide that later.
Yeah. I think the Colts are probably going to go down as the most overrated team to complete the season. A lot of people were picking the Colts as Super Bowl underdogs. You were one of those guys, weren't you?
Yeah, I was until like Titans got Julio Jones. I was real high on the Colts.
Yeah, but you look at it, right? Carson Wentz is now reconnected with Frank Reich. The Colts have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. They have one of the best defenses in the NFL. Jonathan Taylor is an emerging running back in the NFL. It made a lot of sense. But here we are. They're 0-2. Now they have to go on the road to take on division foe Tennessee Titans. They didn't play that great in this game. They were getting beat really bad early on. They made a late comeback, but it just
How do you throw
enough.
a shovel pass interception? How do you do that?
That was a bad ball. Bad ball.
Right on the goal line. How do you do that? It's so
Bad
dumb.
ball. But I mean, like, look, they had a chance to win this game late, and they just weren't able to do so. And look, this team is probably going to finish sub 500. Granted, we're early here, but I'm sorry. I'm just not convinced Wentz is going to stay healthy. This will be his 13th career game he's missed. Guessing he doesn't play on Sunday. That's a lot, and that's his MO. You know, he just can't stay healthy, and that's what run him out of town in Philadelphia. And that's ultimately what's going to hinge this Colts team going forward. And it's going to hinge their payroll as well. So they owe Carson Wentz $35 million guaranteed over the next 2 seasons. So
Eagles are going to be happy, though. They don't have to dish out a second-round pick because I don't think he's going to play 80% of the snaps.
yeah, you should. Yeah, for the Colts, you're saying yes.
Yeah, right.
So we'll see how that shakes out. And another interesting tidbit about the Colts. So the Colts will have the first ever in-season Hard Knocks that will debut in November. What do you think of that?
I think it's stupid. I finally watched the season of the Cowboys. I thought the Hard Knocks was boring. As usual, it's boring this year. So
I still haven't caught it. We talked about it, I think, a couple weeks ago on the show. I just haven't caught up to it yet. It's on the bucket list. I just haven't got to it yet. When you look at the Colts, though, could you really see a scenario where the Colts are like 3-7 when they start up the show? And Wentz is out,
and then the whole move just going to be just stupid. And then, like, everybody's just going to hang their head. And then NFL is going to be like, what are we doing?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure.
Like, why wouldn't you pick, like, the Ravens or why wouldn't you pick, like, the Chiefs? Like, somebody who's going to be amazing all the way through.
I will tell you what, if I were coaching, then I wouldn't want to go near this thing. It's just a lot of unnecessary drama.
Right. But I don't know.
So, I mean, maybe there wasn't a lot of suitors. And to me, this seems like the Colts, I don't want to say volunteered, but the Colts were down for this. Like, I don't think the NFL was like, hey, Vegas, you want to do it? Hey, Dallas, you want to keep going? I think it was more like, we want to do this. We want to showcase something between, I don't know, whatever it may be coming on in November. And this has the indication where the Colts might already be out by the time this first episode occurs.
Yeah, probably.
Because it's not going to come out till November.
Yeah.
All right, Peter, let's move on to the Raiders Steelers. I know you had a strong opinion on this game. The Raiders ended up winning 26-17. Derek Carr played well. He was 28 of 37, threw for 382 yards and 2 touchdowns. Henry Ruggs came alive. He had 5 receptions for 113 yards and a touchdown. His touchdown catch was awesome. That he had a 61-yard deep connection from Carr to Ruggs. It was great. Roethlisberger, he struggled. He was 27 of 40 for 295 yards. He had a touchdown and a pick. And running back Najee Harris, 10 carries, 38 yards. He had a bad game. So the Steelers fall to 1-1, and the Vegas Raiders improved to 2-0. They are so in the AFC, there's only 2 undefeated teams in the AFC. Only the Raiders and the Broncos are undefeated. Everyone else has at least 1 loss.
Who could ever predict that?
Guess that? Yeah.
Yeah, I know. The win total was 6, and they're already a third of the way there. I think it's more on the Steelers than the Raiders. I think the Steelers are going to have a real tough time. Like I said in the beginning, I think he's becoming Peyton Manning of the Super Bowl 50. I think their defense is going to have to carry him, but I don't think their defense is going to get any better. They dropped a lot on defense already. They have a lot of injuries. TJ Watt and their center's not back. I mean, and I don't even think the Steelers can move the ball down the field as much. So I don't know. I think the Steelers are in trouble. I think the Raiders are a good story, but as usual, I think they're gonna crumble down the stretch.
Coming into the season, I had the Raiders as my biggest disappointment of 2021, but they've shut me up. They're 2-0, and they've had two pretty impressive wins. Week 1 at home against the Ravens, and then week 2 at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's always a tough place to play. So they have 2 impressive wins. You can't dispute that. But you look at the Steelers team, Ben Roethlisberger, who is now injured, looks old. TJ Watt is also injured. So you look at this team, Najee Harris, who a lot of people expected to be a real impact player immediately. He hasn't done that. 38 yards rushing in week 2, not good at all. So you look at this team, I don't know if they're good enough to really compete. I really don't. They just strike me as a team that's destined for 7-10.
And they have a hard division too.
Yeah, you got to play the Ravens twice a year. You got to play the Browns twice a year. The Bengals twice a year. Joe, say what you want about the Bengals, but Joe Burrow is a legit up-and-coming quarterback in this league. So I don't like the Steelers team going forward, nor do I like this Raiders team. But it was notable that Henry Ruggs really played well, because I think Henry Ruggs is somebody that could really turn this offense up.
I like their offense without Josh Jacobs, because I don't like the running game. I think they run too much, but I like Henry Ruggs and Brian Edwards and Hunter Renfrow.
Waller. And Darren Waller.
And obviously Waller, yeah.
So we'll see how those two teams shake out. So, Peter, final game we can break down here. Seahawks-Titans, right? This was a game that I don't want to call it a must-win game for the Titans, but they also were in a spot where they were 0-1, and they needed a win here. So they ended up getting it done in overtime. They defeated the Seahawks 33-30. Derrick Henry was awesome. 35 carries, 182 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Ryan Tannehill, he also played pretty well. 27 of 40, 347 yards. He played well. Russell Wilson, 22 of 31, 343 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tyler Lockett, 8 catches, 178 yards and a touchdown. So like we just said, Titans win 33-30. Titans had a must win and they win in overtime. What's your immediate takeaway from that game?
I like the Titans. They came back. Obviously, you said it's a must win. I don't like them going 0-2. But, I mean, Seahawks, I think they just ran out of gas, to be honest with you.
You think so?
Yeah, that's about it. I mean, they won the ball, right? They won the ball in the overtime, right? They won the coin flip. They couldn't get it done.
Do you think, now my next question is, do you see that play with Russell Wilson where it could have been a safety?
Yeah. I don't think it should have been, but it definitely could have.
Real close, that's for sure. Derrick Henry, who I'm not going to say I doubted him, but I was getting a little south on Derrick Henry. He's getting up there in age. He's 28 years old for running back. That's getting up there. He's led the league in carries multiple times, and you would start to think that he's getting up there. That offensive line isn't as good as it used to be. Taylor Lewan got exposed week 1. But here they are now, and Derrick Henry turned back the clock. It was awesome.
It's true.
So
you had him in fantasy, you probably won.
Yep. So the Titans have a favorable matchup against a Colts team that probably won't have Carson Wentz in week 3. So the Titans are really turning around their book, you know? And look, this Titans team, I'm not crazy high on them, but it's a big win against the Seattle Seahawks. That's a big win. That's a man's win for you.
For sure.
All right, Peter, let's talk a little bit about some storylines just from the NFL season the last couple of weeks. First and foremost, let's talk a little bit about injuries. Like we just talked about, Carson Wentz, 2 sprained ankles. Ben Roethlisberger, he got banged up. Tua, shout out Matt Cunha. Also shout out
my ribs.
Shout out Matt Cunha, who also creates our graphics. Speaking of Matt Cunha, Matt is doing a senior project at Wentworth University. They created a GoFundMe account where they are accepting donations. They are creating, an underwater?
Yeah, an underwater like missile thing.
Missile robot.
Sort of like capstone thing. Yeah.
Yeah, for their senior capstone. So they're taking donations. So if you are a loyal Pombo and Peter's Picks listener and you want to donate to Matthew Cunha, who does our wonderful graphics, let us know. Send Matt some money on his GoFundMe
links
account.
in the bio.
Yep, links in the bio. But unfortunately, Matt, Tua has a rib injury. So, TJ Watt also banged up. Andy Dalton, he has a knee injury. He's also hurt. Baker Mayfield, he got banged up. but he returned to action. Derek Carr, he also got banged up, but he returned to action. Tyrod Taylor, he had a hamstring injury, and he will miss Thursday's game against the Carolina Panthers. So, look, there has been a crap ton of injuries, especially
and even
at
like
the
the
quarterback
running back.
position.
Dalvin Cook left the game twice. McCaffrey left the game. Elijah Mitchell left the game. That ripped the 49ers backfield. Like,
Yeah,
all
of
them
course, the whole
hurt.
49ers backfield got shredded with injuries. So, look, the NFL is all about durability, and there's a lot of teams that have certainly dealt with some injuries here. It's early, so we'll see if those teams can get those guys back. And nothing's going to be season ending at this point. Thankfully, it looks like Andy Dalton will be okay in time. Tyrod Taylor, he's on the IR, but he's expected back in about 3 to 5 weeks.
It's probably just conditioning because they probably didn't play the preseason, or
It could be.
if they
it could be
did,
a
they
bit of
didn't
that.
play a lot. So
Yep. And I think Andy Dalton, who looked like he could be under a serious injury, he's looking like it's not that serious.
yeah, just
Carson
an
Wentz.
MCL, I think.
Yep. Carson Wentz only has 2 sprained ankles, not anything worse. So that's unfortunate, but it could be worse, I guess. All right, Peter, let's talk a little bit. I want to talk about Zach Wilson, Peter. Zach freaking Wilson. So the Jets, with the 2nd overall pick in the 2020 draft, they drafted Zach Wilson. So I'm high on Zach Wilson. I was at the draft. I liked him at BYU. I thought he could be a real difference maker for this Jets team. But wow, his week 2 performance against the Patriots was as bad as it gets. He threw a total of 4 interceptions, 2 of which came on his first 2 passing attempts. Wilson was overthrowing receivers left and right. It seems like he wasn't on the same page with his receivers. He couldn't read the defense. He was a mess. What do you make of that awful performance from Zach Wilson?
So that's Belichick's MO. I think he beats on every rookie quarterback, like known to man. But I think that's more on the Jets coaching staff. I don't know if Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur, I don't know, because they're first year head coach and then offensive coordinator. I don't think they can steer Zach Wilson in the right way this year. I like Zach Wilson, but I think that he's going to make way too many boneheaded mistakes. And I don't know. I think he's just set up to fail, as usual in New York.
You know what's just dumb to me? If you're the New York Jets, right? You have a first year, like you talked about, offensive coordinator, first year head coach, first year quarterback. Why would you not bring in a real quarterback veteran presence in the locker room, as Nate Olshan says, a mentor?
Right. You don't even have anybody behind him.
Yeah, like there's literally nobody behind Zach Wilson. You cannot bench Zach Wilson. He is your quarterback for 17 games, barring any injury. The smart thing would have been to bring in a guy like Andy Dalton, Ryan Fitzpatrick, even freaking Cam Newton, any veteran quarterback, trade for Gardner Minshew, bring in somebody of that magnitude, trade for Tyrod Taylor, somebody that is going to just bridge the gap, that is good enough to play in the meantime, can deal with the crappy offensive line, to deal with the growing pains, while Zach Wilson, who played at BYU, can really grow and develop at his own pace. Instead, the Jets are stupid enough to throw him right out there to the Wolves without having really any interest in this offseason to any court. The only interest they had in any backup quarterback was Brian Hoyer, and Hoyer ended up returning to the New England Patriots. And the Jets should have been a lot more thorough in their search for a veteran quarterback.
Hey, you're giving it too much credit. They can't even give Robert Saleh a house. He's still living in a hotel room after like 6 months.
7 kids, right?
Yeah, 7 kids, 2 rooms.
Yeah, but
Like, how do you not
look,
buy a house? If you're the Jets owner, how do you not be like,
yeah, Woody Johnson, Woody Johnson, get better.
Yeah, no, for real. No, I mean the Jets always gonna be the Jets.
It's just, to me, it's just baffling. Like, you're standing here, you're gonna throw Zach Wilson in the fire, and you see Zach Wilson make a mistake the first time and the first 2 times. So
well, he's reading his iPad by himself. He's not even getting any coaching help.
What do you do? Do you tell him to fix his mistake? Nope, do the same freaking thing. And he was bad, man. And that's how you ruin a quarterback. That's how they ruined Sam Darnold. And that's how they're going to ruin Zach Wilson. And that's an absolute shame, because I think Wilson could have been something. And you can see in Carolina that Sam Darnold is something. He is 2-0 after a big win against the New Orleans Saints.
And even if you want to blame Adam Gase, I mean, Ryan Tannehill was pretty good. And
exactly. Yep. I'm just baffled. Like, I wrote about that in my week 2 takeaway article on the dailygoats.com. You should check it out. Just how stupid that Jets foundation and program is. Absolute stupid. I don't know how good or bad Robert Saleh is as a head coach. That is
No,
That's
I
out
think
for
he's
the
pretty
jury.
good. I think his MO, obviously, his defense. I think the Jets' defense is actually playing really, really well.
Yeah, but you know what? When you have a makeshift offensive line, especially without Becton, and you just have no answer to help Zach Wilson, it's just so frustrating. And I feel for the kid because he's going to get ruined. That sucks. But the Jets do what the Jets do. Simple as that.
Listen, the Jets are the Jets, and they'll probably draft another quarterback top 3 in
Yep.
2 years.
See you in 3 years. Yep.
Yep.
All right, Peter. I want to talk a little bit about did you catch the Monday night football broadcast with Peyton Manning and Eli Manning the last
Yeah, that's
couple
the
weeks?
best thing that the ESPN's ever done, because I think that obviously they have a great dynamic being brothers, and then they have the guest like every other play. They had Brett Favre last week.
So you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I love it.
So I tuned in for parts of it. I watched the first week 1 more than week 2, but I thought it was insightful. So I'm a football junkie, so I really like when they break down plays and they break down different formations. Like, okay, like he's running 12 personnel, running a scat back, like whatever, wheel route, H-back to the H-back, something like that. Like, I like when they break it down. That, to me, from a football perspective, is insightful. I do think it gets a little off the rails when they bring in guests. For example,
I
they
like
brought
that,
in.
though. That's why you're tuning in, I think.
I understand that. I understand why they did it, but I don't care. I don't care what Travis Kelce has to say.
You don't care about Russell Wilson last week talking about
I
their
don't.
game?
I don't care. I don't care what his opinion was. Like, I like seeing Peyton and Eli break down a defense, and I like when they blast Jared Goff for missing a read. I like when they say John Gruden should have did this instead on week 1. I like when they point out what the defense did wrong. I like that. I don't like seeing Gronk just make people laugh because I've seen that enough.
What, you don't like him saying, hey, I don't watch film. I just asked Tom Brady in the huddle, what do I do?
Yeah, I'm just going to say that it is fake news. Absolute fake news.
Oh, he already retracted that. He's like, obviously I watch film. Like, I'm
Absolute
not dumb.
fake news. Exactly. The whole shtick, like, I know everyone's like, oh, Gronk's dumb, this and that. Gronk is very smart in the football field.
Well, I mean, he plays into it. Look at that USAA commercial.
Oh,
He's
absolutely.
Like, I'm special.
He
what?
plays into that, but like, have you remember the stories with Gronk where he didn't spend a game check? All of the money he spent was on his endorsements. Like, Gronk is smarter than you think. And I think that's just his shtick. But I don't really care what he had to say to the Monday night broadcast booth. To Peyton and Eli. I just like when they were breaking down plays and giving me insightful information from a football perspective. Like, I like Pro Football Focus. I like Pro Football Talk. Like, I like all that crap.
So like you said with
I
Mike Florio and Drew Brees on NBC, I think that Peyton Manning and or Eli Manning are just going to slide right into Monday Night Football whenever they want.
You think so?
Yeah, I really do. Because Peyton would have been an announcer somewhere else, I think.
Yeah, but apparently, I don't know what Peyton's going to do. I still think there's a shot for him to so there isn't a clear thing going on with the Denver Broncos. There's a lot of rumors that team's going to be up for sale. Keep an eye on him being a part.
Oh yeah, that's true, because Elon Musk and stuff and
keep
Bezos.
an eye. I've also heard Jeff Bezos is in on that. Keep an eye on the Denver Broncos. He obviously played in Denver, finished his career there. Just keep an eye on that one. I also think Peyton could be a team general manager / team president, kind of like the John Elway role and John Lynch. Like, I could see that. But there isn't really a natural fit for him yet, because I think he would do that in places where he was only familiar. Like, I could see him doing that in Tennessee because he's from the area, or Indianapolis, or Denver for that matter. But Denver hired a GM. Indy has Chris Ballard. He's not going anywhere. He's one of the most respected GMs in the NFL. In Tennessee, they got a great program down there. And Vrabel has been a fantastic coach, and Robinson, like, they know what they're doing down in Tennessee. So I don't really see a natural fit with him as a GM at this moment. But as an owner in Denver, don't rule that out. But I could see him sliding in the booth. Breeze is going to end up doing Sunday Night Football. We all know that.
I really, yeah. Once you said that, because he's like front and center too. He
right now
replaced Ronnie Harrison.
Yeah, Sunday Night Football. It's Collinsworth and Al Michaels. I read a rumor. So Al Michaels' contract expires after the Super Bowl. We talked about that. There's a rumor that Amazon wants Al Michaels for their Thursday night package in 2022. So again, I don't know if that's true or not, but let's say Al Michaels is gone, and let's say Collinsworth just sticks to podcasting on Pro Football Focus, then it'll be Tirico and Drew Brees. I'm okay with that for Sunday Night Football.
Oh, maybe
It's
Peyton
not-
Manning
it's-
does that. Maybe he does that Amazon thing.
He's already on the ESPN stuff though, so I think
Yeah.
if Peyton Manning goes broadcasting, he's Monday Night Football. But I think Monday Night Football has been fine with Lewis Riddick and stuff.
Yeah,
think that's
I
been
like
fine.
that. It's better than Booger McFarland.
Yeah, it's shout out to Booger McFarlane. Fantastic. I saw a TikTok about Booger McFarlane this morning. I just died. It was just so funny. All right, Peter, want to get into our game picks of the week?
Let's do it. Let's try to get better than 2 and 3 and 1-4.
Let's do it, Peter. So let me start off here. My first game pick, I'm going to go with the underdog Washington football team plus 7.5 over the Buffalo Bills. Washington has 10 days of rest over the Buffalo Bills, and I think that is going to really come into something. I think Buffalo's overrated. We talked about this when we were previewing the season. I think Buffalo's overrated. Yes, I know they beat Miami in week 2, but Miami dealt with the Tua injury, and that was just a mess from the get-go. And I think a lot of people in Miami were fearsome that injury was worse for Tua, and I think that they were all thrown off. I like Washington plus 7.5. They play hard. Heineke keeps them in games. Not saying they're going to win the game, but they're going to play tough.
I have the Ravens -9. I mean, ever since Lamar Jackson got there, I think that the Ravens beat up on bad teams, and obviously the Lions are a bad team, and the Lions could stop Aaron Jones. So you got 4 touchdowns on Monday night, and I think Lamar Jackson is just going to have his way, and I think they're going to win by a lot.
So that's your pick. This is my premium pick of the week. I know Peter hates this, so we'll see how it goes.
I don't know.
Tennessee Titans -5 over the Colts. Look, I think Carson Wentz is likely out, and I think Jacob Eason sucks. And I think this Colts team's a mess right now. That's been evident the last couple of weeks. I understand it's a must-win, but they got to go to the road to play the Tennessee Titans after a big win against the Colts. Look, I like the Titans to win by a touchdown here. I really do. I think Derrick Henry's running the ball really well. And I think Ryan Tannehill is going to do enough at home. That's just how I like it. And especially looking back from the history of these teams when they play each other, the home team, they fared pretty well.
I don't know. I just
Especially
don't
the
like
last
that.
couple years.
I don't like the spot. I think 5's a lot of points.
They're going to win by 4. I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah, for sure. So my second pick is the Dolphins +4. There's no Tua, Jacoby Brissett. I think that Jacoby Brissett is going to keep them in the game. I think the Raiders higher. It's going to have to come down eventually. And I don't think they're going to go 3-0 versus the Chargers. I think the Dolphins can make it close. So you see their defense. Brian Flores, I think, can coach up Brissett to maybe not win the game, but I think they can definitely cover the +4. I think it should be at least +3. So
Peter, to me, this reads you're only picking Miami because Tua's not starting.
no way. No, prayers up for Tua.
You don't have to say prayers up anymore. It's just Bruce Rips.
No, prayers up for Tua. Jacoby Brissett, I hope you go like 4-0 and then start a controversy.
Quarterback controversy.
Yeah,
All right,
maybe.
my third pick of the week. I'm going to go Patriots -2.5 over the Saints. Peter coaxed me into this one. The Patriots, their first 2 weeks, look, I understand the offense has been pretty conservative. I think that's very apparent. But they're at home now. New Orleans is coming off a bad loss in Carolina. And as crazy as this sounds, New Orleans doesn't really have a home right now. They're practicing at TCU's facility because they're still not in New Orleans. Their coaches have COVID issues. Right now, they're dealing with some injuries, and Marshawn Lattimore is coming off of an injury right now. I think, you know what, Peter? I'll go bold statement here. The Patriots offense, they play well. They play really well, and they score 27 points. They win 27-17.
See, my conspiracy theory, right? I think that the Pats are still going to do their thing. I don't think that they're going to let Mac Jones throw into the end zone. It's a crime because he hasn't thrown in the end zone once. But I think they're just going to do their thing, and their defense is going to get at least 1 pick because of Jameis. So I have the Pats -2.5. I think that they're going to coax Tom Brady into thinking that, hey, the Patriots can't score. They can't do anything. And then they're just going to show them what they can really do in week 4. I really do. I think Bill Belichick's like that.
Conspiracy theory for the win. So I have a stat for you because we're all Mac Jones people here in this podcast. According to Mike Giardi of NFL Network, Mac Jones is the first quarterback since at least 1950 with 30-plus pass attempts, a 70-plus completion percentage in each of his first 2 career starts. Only one other quarterback since the 50s has had 60-plus pass attempts, a 70% completion percentage, and not thrown an interception in his first 2 starts. Want to guess who the other quarterback
If you
was?
say it's Tom Brady, I'm gonna leave.
It is not.
All right. I don't know.
I'll give you 3 guesses. 1 for 1.
I have no idea.
Come on, 2 guesses. Anyone? Come on.
It was very safe. I don't even know it was safe. Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
Wait,
Yes.
really? Wow.
Yes. And then if you want to put a little bow on this quote, Aaron Rodgers sat for 3 years. Was very ready. Mac Jones is in for the get-go, baby.
Hey, listen,
right.
he's just giving what he's getting, from the defense.
Absolutely.
I don't care. Just throw 8 yards every time. It doesn't matter.
Win games. Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson are nightmares right now. Justin Fields and Davis Mills as well. I don't want to go on this tangent, but just give me 1 second. I'm sorry, Peter.
I mean, no, Trevor Lawrence, I think, is becoming a bust. Trevor Lawrence is looking lost out there.
Look, Peter, look at this. All right, so rookie quarterback turnover stats, right? Minimum 10 offensive snaps. Trevor Lawrence has taken 130 snaps. He's had 5 turnovers. Zach Wilson's taken 138 snaps, 5 turnovers. Justin Fields has taken 47 snaps, 1 turnover. Davis Mills has taken 35 snaps, 1 turnover. Mac Jones has taken 133 snaps, 0.0 turnovers. I rest my case. All right, Peter, moving on to my next pick. I like Green Bay +3 over San Francisco. Look, Green Bay's an underdog here, but I like them in this spot. I still think San Francisco is a little fraudulent. They didn't play that well against Philadelphia, and they didn't play that well against Detroit either. And I think Green Bay can win this game outright. Green Bay, I think their offense is really humming. I think Aaron Rodgers is probably going to play really, really well in this game. Granted, he didn't play in week 1, but he played really well in week 2. He looked awesome against Detroit, especially in the second half. Aaron Jones, he looked fantastic, especially catching the ball. Expect Devontae Adams to break out against an injured San Francisco secondary. I like Green Bay +3.
I like Philadelphia +3.5 versus the Cowboys. So the Cowboys, I think Mike McCarthy is going to get fired no matter what they do. Did you see that story about Mike McCarthy not being
he sucks, Peter.
not being able to read the clock?
You.
I know they won that 56-yard field goal, but like they couldn't even stop the clock. And then like Kellen Moore was like, "No, it was blocked by like players." Now I think that if you're getting plus points, it's going to be a division game. It's going to be close. I like Jalen Hurts. I think that Mike McCarthy is going to screw him over and win.
I told you McCarthy's overrated, Peter. I told you this week.
I think it's just more. Yeah, I think he's just Aaron Rodgers.
Mike McCarthy is the most overrated coach in the NFL. And you know what? I don't need, that might be a hot take statement because I think a lot of coaches suck in the NFL. I think the NFL is a real coaching issue. I think there's a lot of coaches that really suck. We could go through it. That's an off-season discussion.
It's true. I mean,
or that could be
by Aaron Rodgers. Maybe LaFleur is going to be like that.
Oh, LaFleur's in the same boat. Absolutely. 13-3 his first 2 years, 100%. But I think he's in the same boat. He is sure, he'll call plays for you, but when it comes to the other side of the ball, he has his head in his ass. All right. My final pick of the week. I'm going to go the over. Bucks Rams 55.5. This game is going to be a fireworks, Peter. Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford are going to light up the scoreboard. Tom Brady in that offense has been awesome this year. At age 44, Tom Brady has 9 touchdown passes. He's averaging 327.5 yards a game. And Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp really have a great chemistry forming. Not to mention, I think that Bucs secondary is pretty weak. So I like the over in this game, 55.5. Not sure who's going to win this game, but I think the game's going to go in the 30s.
And then my final pick, my premium pick of the week is Seahawks -2. There you go, Jay. But I think that if you're getting Russell Wilson not on a field goal, I think they're going to win by a field goal. And I think that's way too short. And I think Russell Wilson's going to bounce back. He's 18-8 after a loss, last 24 games. So
boom, Peter, my guy Russell Wilson. So those are our NFL picks. So be sure to so let's talk about Survivor, Peter. So my Survivor pick is the Denver Broncos over the New York Jets.
And mine is the Ravens over the Lions. Perfect after 2 weeks. I know it's a small task, but
yeah. So we are undefeated in our first 2 weeks. Week 1, I had the Rams over the Bears. Week 2, I had the Tampa Bay Bucks over the Atlanta Falcons. That game got a little close for my likings, but still won. So I'm gonna go with Broncos at home against the Jets.
It's a good pick.
That's our NFL talk. Peter, you got a baseball minute?
I mean, the Red Sox, I think they're gonna make the wild card. I don't know if they're gonna host. They're lining up so the Nate Eovaldi is gonna get the ball in the wild card game. I like that. I think Nate Eovaldi, and then you get like Garrett Whitlock, and then you get Chris Sale out of the bullpen. I don't know. they're doing a 4-man rotation right now, which is all right because Tanner Howell can't pitch more than 4 innings. But I think Erod's gonna have a real problem. I think he's tipping pitchers again.
Yeah,
So.
I will say Erod has been the most disappointing member of this Red Sox team. I don't
True.
think that's
Thank God we didn't sign him 2 years ago.
like, sure, there's been some other, he cost himself a lot of money in the offseason. I think he might be back, but I think it's going to be a lot discounted price than what he was anticipated heading into the market. But the Red Sox as a team, especially, like, you could argue a couple of their bats have underachieved, but Erod has been the biggest underachievement. It hasn't been close.
It's going to be a tough scene, though, because they're going to have to make a decision. I know Jose Iglesias can't make the postseason roster.
So unfortunate. So
I know.
unfortunate.
It's
so
stupid because he hasn't been on the 40-man since September 1st. But
yep.
Yeah, but I don't know because a lot of players still haven't played because of COVID and time's running out.
Yeah, the Red
So
Sox
I don't know if
are-
they want to
yeah.
just throw him into the fire, you know?
That's tough. But I do think the Red Sox ultimately, I think they get that second wild card spot. I think Toronto ends up getting the first wild card spot. But if the Red Sox are able to get by that first wild card spot, right, you look at them as a whole, and if they're big 3 in terms of the 3 starters, Sale, Evaldi, and then who do you go with game 3? I go Pivetta.
No, probably ride or die with Erod.
I
It doesn't
go
matter.
Pivetta.
They're going to get swept, whoever it is.
I go
They're going
Pivetta.
to get
You
swept
see,
versus the
nah,
Rays. It doesn't matter.
You don't know that. You never know that in a playoff series. The Rays have been shown struggle in the postseason. Granted, it was the World Series last year with Kevin Cash and his debacle. Obviously, in that World Series game, pulling his pitcher out way too early. So I'm not convinced that the Red Sox are totally going to get destroyed in the playoffs, but you just got to get there. You know, you got to survive and just get there. It's not even a shoe when they get there. Also, Peter, I don't know if you know this, but the last game of the Red Sox regular season occurs next Sunday, which is the Brady Bucks game.
Oh, great. Nice.
Yep.
So I'm going to watch that, and they're going to lose versus the Nationals, and then we're going to beat Brady. That's great.
So to me, there's a lot of – my first takeaway was, let's see if you remember this. I believe it was the ALCS. I think it was the ALCS. I think it was the Ortiz Tigers game where the police officer at Fenway with the
game 2.
That was game 3, whatever it was. That was the game where the Patriots had a game-winning touchdown drive. That was the Kembrell Tompkins play against the Saints. That was a great day in Boston sports. We'll see if this day is the same.
Well, hopefully that won't matter because I really hope they don't
That's
get
true.
swept versus the Yankees this weekend because I don't want them to even make it close.
Oh, you know what? They got to take care of business up until the Yankees game this weekend. It's a huge pivotal. If they get swept by the Yankees or even lose 2 or 3, they could be on the outside looking in. That's not that crazy to say.
But thank God we're facing Baltimore next week. Thank God.
And you know
we're
what?
facing
Washington,
Baltimore next
great. Like, who knows? Granted, you say thank God we're playing Baltimore, but you never know. We'll see how it shakes out, Peter. But thank you all for listening. Be sure to follow us on all our social media accounts. Try to follow our picks here. I mean, Peter, I think we're going to go 5-0 this week.
We're due. We're due. I feel it.
So next week, we'll recap week 3 in the NFL. We'll preview some week 4 action. And we'll probably be talking some baseball again. And we'll be previewing the big Brady Bucks game, Peter.
Oh, huge. Best game. Probably
Peter,
in a long
You know
time.
what we should do for that game? We should look into the props for that game. Why don't we do that? We'll do a
Oh,
segment on
for
props for
sure.
that
He's.
game.
I mean, for sure that Brady's gonna break the all-time passing yards.
Don't give me all your spoilers yet. We just saved that for
No,
next
for
week. Peter.
sure. Listen, he's saving that up.
Yeah, I think you're right. But thank you all for listening. Catch us next week.
Stay hot.